Good morning, Elizabeth. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm really excited to dive into today's episode with you. So, we are going to do this nice and slow because I want our viewers to really understand and capture everything that we're about to discuss. So, I have been really following your story, and I'm really impressed. Number one, you are very young, and the topics that you are advocating for and the passion that you've put behind this, you have just really put your best foot forward. And I see a lot of people are really supportive of what you're sharing. And so I want to talk about that. I know you are a daughter of immigrants, and I saw you share a little something on social media, that your parents came here with $90 in their pocket and started a life. So that's kind of where I want to start, is with that. Talk to me about that and tell me how that all started for you.
Yeah. So both my parents came separately, though their stories are pretty similar. My mom was a little younger. She was only 10. So I think when she talks about it's almost not as painful. It's not as intense as what my dad kind of recalls was leaving. He also went through a really traumatic goodbye. He had to say goodbye to his father, not knowing if he'd ever see him again. They would not let his father out. And then he ended up actually never seeing him again, unfortunately. So there's like a lot of pressure. That's like a light way to put it when it comes to me trying to make my parents proud. Not only am I obviously like proud to be their daughter, but I know how much they literally gave up and risked so that I could live here and be here and have the best opportunity possible. So when I was younger, I feel like I almost didn't think about it at all. But around 16, 17, it kind of all just hit me. And I realized what my parents literally gave up, what they risked. Obviously, like you said, $90 is not a lot. My dad likes to tell me stories about how he was in school around 22, 23 years old and had to decide between getting like a McDonald's hamburger to eat that night or taking the subway home. He could only afford one. It's a lot when you think about it. I grew up incredibly blessed. My parents worked their butts off and gave me the best life possible. I don't think I could ever honestly repay them, but every single thing I do comes with the pressure of wanting to make them proud and make that whole trip very much worth it.
I definitely, I am a parent. I have 5 kids, and I definitely think that what you have done is extraordinary. I mean, you have graduated college, you have become an author, you have created a project, and we'll talk about that. But you have a voice that has captured millions of people everywhere. And you've also stood up to people that most wouldn't do. I mean, I think in terms of, I can't speak for your parents, but I would definitely say I'm sure you have definitely made them proud. And it's so great to hear someone so young address what they know that their parents sacrificed for them. We as parents rarely hear that, so it's kind of a breath of fresh air. So you are an extraordinary author. You're beautiful. You are modeling. You are doing all these different things. But before you started that, you were looking at figure skating in the Olympics. Do I have that right?
Technically, yeah. When I was about 10 years old, we took a family vacation and I ended up at an ice skating rink, honestly, just for fun. We had nothing to do. We were in Florida and it was really hot. I just wanted to do something fun. I had really never skated in my life. And my dad took me and kind of fell in love with this coach who was there. She, I believe, was pretty prominent back in like the former Soviet Union he actually knew who she was. But her skating was also so amazing that he told me if I ever really wanted to pursue this, he would, pay for a lesson with her. So I did one 30-minute lesson during that break. And I basically told my parents I fell in love, just like my dad did, with this coach and with the sport, and that that's what I wanted to do. I think they thought I was kidding because when we got back to New York and back to our daily lives, I didn't bring it up for a bit. Then summer vacation came along and I was like, can we go back to Florida and can I skate again? I ended up skating, I want to say about 6 hours a day, every day, all summer, because I knew I was almost 11 years old, which is very late for a figure skater. And if I wanted my parents to see how serious I was, I kind of had to catch up to the kids my age, which was virtually impossible at that point. But I skated every single day, I worked my butt off. And then I told my mom, I want to go to the Olympics. And my parents not only giving up everything and leaving the Soviet Union to come here, but they kind of continued that tradition throughout their lives, being the greatest parents of people in the world. So my mom fully believed in me, packed up our lives, and we moved across the country so that I could be homeschooled, train 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and kind of pursue this. I got a lot further than most people expected. Unfortunately, I was very unlucky with some injuries. In the span of 5 years, I broke my femur. I had a skate to the head. I broke my tailbone twice. I tore my ankle. I broke my foot. The list honestly goes on and on. And then my last injury was a torn ankle, which I was told I would basically never recover from. So I tore 3 ligaments, 2 tendons, my Achilles snapped, and I kind of busted every bone in my foot. So you can imagine what that felt like. I was told I would never skate again, and my dream kind of came crumbling down, and we had to kind of pick up our lives and move back to New York. And I had to be, I think I was around 16. So I went from training 10 hours a day and being surrounded by, my coaches and people I was training with and had known for 5, 6 years, to continuing being homeschooled back in New York, no friends, no family, really, no life, because I had just given all that up, in a cast for close to 7 months in my room by myself, trying to figure out how I kind of go forward.
Wow. Now, during this journey, I saw you share something, someone who I think you trained with, someone that you say you love dearly. It looks like someone from childhood during this time that you're talking about. This young woman, I think, was also in figure skating with you or trained at some point, and you talk about her on social media a lot. Was she a part of that journey with you?
Yeah. So like I said, when I started, I was really late to the game, and a lot of people didn't really take me seriously. But the few friends that I had were probably some of the closest friendships I'll ever have. Not a lot of people get to understand the relationship that an athlete has with, I'd say, other athletes, but also their coaches. Like, I was spending more time with these people than my own parents. They were watching me go through, puberty and adolescence and all that at the same time as injuries and depression and inspiration and all the most intense emotions you could feel every single day on that sheet of ice. So yeah, I'd say you get very, very close to both, other athletes and friends on the ice, but also just the coaches. I don't think people really understand the coach athlete dynamic, but it is a really, really special and intense one.
It's like extended family, because you spend more time. Yeah.
Like a parent, but in a very different, deeper sense, because they're obviously not blood related. But no one wants you to succeed more than a coach who has to kind of push you to get back up and try jumping again after you've just jumped 800 times and fallen every single time. That takes a very special kind of intensity and love, I would say.
Definitely. And such a young age to do it. The perseverance, a lot of, thinking back when I was that age, I didn't even know what I wanted to do yet. So I think that says a lot. So you began a career in modeling. Talk to me about that. How did that even happen?
Yeah, it's a really crazy, funny story. Actually, we were in New York. We had recently moved back. I was just out of my cast, still in physical therapy, which went on for years and years, but kind of finally out of my cast and trying to just be a normal teenager for the first time. I was pretty depressed, to tell you the truth. My mom was walking our dog, who she actually had found outside of the street in Florida right before we had moved home. So very meant to be. This dog was, literally abused the left and right, had broken bones, kidney failure, heart failure, every single thing. My mom basically brought it back to life because she's an angel. And he was actually a really tiny teacup Pomeranian. So we believe that he was probably used for breeding because he was so perfect and then just, I guess, thrown out by some horrible person. With walking this dog who truly looked like a little angel. And a photographer was doing a photo shoot in Central Park. Apparently they had a dog schedule who canceled, and she asked if she could borrow our dog for the shoot. And then to repay my mom, she kind of said, maybe I'll do a photo shoot with your daughter. My mom kind of told her about me, I think. We did a really short session for about an hour or two in the park, just so I think my mom wanted me to kind of feel a little better as a teenage girl. The photographer sent the photos over to Wilhelmina, which was one of the biggest agencies at the time and still, I believe. And I was signed a few weeks later, and it all started from there.
Wow. So yeah. A completely different field, avenue, everything. So during your starting of your modeling career, what are some of the things that stuck out to you the most?
Good question. I'd honestly say how badly people wanted to be there and how much they would risk to be there. Like I said, I was very lucky. Not everyone's born and raised in New York City. Not everyone has two parents that love them and support them the way my parents did and do. A lot of models, especially at Wilhelmina in New York, were there because they were kind of plucked from their homes, either in different states or even across the world, and brought to the city. So they were my age. They had no one guiding them. They didn't know what to do, how to make money, who to trust in the city, how to even get around. Whereas I kind of didn't even get to do a photo shoot without knowing that my parents were supportive and okay with everything I was doing. Not only that, but also keeping me literally safe, which is super important, especially as a teenager modeling in the city.
Mhm.
So I'd say what struck me less now, because I understand it, but more then with how much people were willing to give up and the risks people would take at just 15, 16, 17 years old to become models in an industry that is so, I don't want to say dangerous, but let's say scary at times. That struck me. And then I just think how bitter people can be. I didn't meet a lot of very nice people. I know it's so surprising, but yeah, agents and people, I always thought were going to be more like a teacher or like a coach. Relationship was very different. I was treated more like a clothing hanger and just, told what I could or couldn't do with my body, how I was supposed to look, dress, act, when I could dye my hair or cut it, or God forbid I lost an inch, leave an inch. So I was totally ready for it as someone who had been in the intense world of figure skating for so many years. But I'd say I can only imagine the people that kind of get in unprepared and without the support of their families at the same time. And I could understand why people have a much harder time in that space than I did. And mine wasn't even that simple, to be honest.
So, I worked in that industry. I'm very familiar with Wilhelmina models. I worked for an agency in LA and as a makeup artist, and I watched these incredibly beautiful women come in and be told they're too short. They'll never make it.
Yeah.
It's like they came in with this sincere confidence and ready to conquer the world. And then they get feedback from the agent. Like you mentioned, it's very cutthroat. It's very competitive. Some people after a certain age, they say you're too old to model. Or like what you mentioned, that I think it created, especially nowadays, it created a sense of body shaming for a lot of women because society was taught that women should only look one way in modeling. And obviously, we've had women who have broken those barriers and shown differently. But I don't think people really understand the thick skin that you really have to be in that industry and all the different things that you go through, the pressure. And so, with that said, like, what are some things that you were able to do? Having supportive parents is incredible, but how were you able to mentally continue doing some of those things? When you're, like you said, they're not nice. You look at them to be your coaches and guide you, but really they're looking at you as what you can do for them. How did you stay mentally fit during that?
Yeah, I think the combination of two things, like I said, nothing probably could have prepared me for that world better than figure skating. I
Mhm.
have a lot more respect, I think, for the coaches I've had in that world than for any agents I've had. But with their love also came a lot of, strict rules and yelling, also about, your body and your weight and different things. I saw where they were coming from. I think the way they approached it was a little different than, just telling a 17-year-old going through puberty she's not allowed to gain an inch. But I think I was very prepared for that because of that world. At the same time, it would be unfair if I didn't give, again, full credit to my parents. There's a lot of decisions you have to make at a very young age when it comes to, how much skin you want to show, what kind of people you're okay competing with. And they make it very hard to make those decisions at 16, 17 because they kind of pressure you into doing it or, losing the backing of your agency right then and there. So I think there's a lot of decisions I struggled with that I was only able to make because I trust my family so much. And I would basically tell myself, if my dad says it's okay, it must be okay. So I just kind of left everything in their hands. And I think I'm probably still guilty of that now, like 28 years old. But it truly is a privilege. I don't think I realized enough when I was younger. But anything I've ever done, they've kind of just allowed me to do because when I couldn't make a decision about anything, even apart from modeling, I'm talking boys or school or anything else, I just kind of said, if my dad said it's okay, it must be okay.
Yeah. It sounds like you have an incredible relationship with your parents. What a leading by example. I hope many, many young women watch and learn from you, because it's important. Values have since changed so much in the way society handles things, even the way we as parents do things. I always tell people, parents are never perfect, but I don't think kids are looking for the perfect parent. I think they're looking for happy parents, parents who will encourage, parents who will support, parents who will be honest. So it sounds like you have definitely experienced that, which is a true blessing. So now let's talk about, you have been very extremely vocal about your project, Lest People Forget. And I really would love it if you could share with the viewers why you even started it and why that is such a passion of yours.
Yeah, so I'll try to make a very long story a little shorter, but I was pretty heavily involved at in like the Jewish space when it comes to different nonprofits, even kind of the intertwining of Judaism and politics. We're kind of unfortunately seeing in our country a lot, everything to do with fighting anti-Semitism, Holocaust education. Like, I've always been very passionate about those subjects and very heavily kind of involved. Years ago, I was kind of made the face of this Jewish political movement. I had never really spoken about it, but I think it's fair to tell people that it was, I don't want to say an accident, but I was kind of put there. Nothing was explained to me at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. And I wouldn't say I regret it, but I'd say I regret not having the courage to kind of explain where I was coming from. And I think it was in those moments that I realized that politics is great and it's important to a lot of people, but your values and your faith and your religion and all the things that make you the voter probably that you are should come first. So I kind of wanted to separate myself from all that and just focus on the values that I believe are incredible, that I believe I gained solely from my religion. And then the history that comes with that. And a lot of that has to do, unfortunately, nowadays with fighting anti-Semitism and even Holocaust denial, which truly I was too privileged to realize were real issues growing up in New York City. Almost everyone I knew was Jewish. I went to an Orthodox Jewish school. I just had no idea the ignorance that was in our country and in the world. When it comes to the Holocaust, it all kind of happened at once. It was a combination of people kind of shocking me with how little they knew. Young people at the same time that Kanye West kind of went viral for his negative comments last fall. And I realized everyone's probably going to try to do something, but it's important to me. I should probably try to enter the space while I can and make some kind of a change, even if I change one mind or I open up one mind to this history that otherwise they wouldn't have seen. I made a difference. So I talked to my brother, who's like my parents, one of the best people in the entire world. And we came up with Lest People Forget, which is basically a digital Holocaust museum with a twist. I think a lot of people have these digital museums which are super important because not everyone, like I said, is from New York City. Not everyone has a Holocaust museum around the corner they can visit. And there needs to be a way that young people can kind of learn this history that's, I'd say, intriguing and interesting to them, but also easy to understand without physically being, on a field trip in one of the museums. So we created a digital Holocaust museum. We're partnering with different personal collections as well as museums across the country, just showing pretty basic images. They are horrific to look at, but they tell the story of the Holocaust in a very quick and easy way. You can scroll through, look at letters that were sent to and from the concentration camps, look at photos from those times, and you'll understand what was going on in World War II a lot faster than a child probably would in a semester in school when they are already hesitant to pay attention. And then the twist kind of is the technology that's being used. When you go on the platform, there are simple steps that you can use, and you can actually preserve the materials. So the goal is for everyone around the world to be preserving the materials that are kind of presented, unless people forget, so that God forbid if we face any more censorship or people like Kanye West with pretty horrific opinions, the entire world will have these materials in their computers literally preserved forever. And they can kind of participate in that, hopefully with older, younger people, anyone that needs to learn this history, which unfortunately people do. So it's kind of like a collaborative effort that I kind of see the entire world participating in. So I'm really excited about it. It's gone really, really well so far. People are really excited to participate, and I'm hoping to actually get it into the curriculum in a few schools next year.
I really hope that you do. There was something that you said in another interview that really clicked to me, because when I was in 8th grade, which was many moons ago, we actually, our entire class at that time, we had history class. I don't know what they call it now, but we studied as the class the Holocaust. And we had a woman who survived Camp Auschwitz come to our class and share her experience and the pictures, and it really made it real to me what some people in the world will never have to experience or ever be exposed to. And when you spoke up about it, and you're right, Kanye West and his comments, I consider to be extremely uneducated, among other things, but that's for a whole nother conversation. So when you took this project on, it reminded me of being in 8th grade, meeting this woman, hugging this woman and hearing her story, and at such a young age feeling such empathy for what she had to go through. And I have an 11-year-old who is in school, and they have never discussed it. It's not a part of the curriculum, and it is an unfortunate thing that happened in history to our world. So I'm 100% in support of what you're doing, because it's something that happened, and people do need to be educated, because what happened created so many different things to happen even in today's society, you know. And so I just want to thank you for standing strong and staying true, because we need more of that. And and on that note, you have 2 websites, and one is catered to Kanye in the sense of, saying, hey, get educated. Can you share with me both of the websites where people can go in support of this?
Yeah, so it's obviously lesspeopleforget.com. But when we launched, we wanted kind of like a viral moment. You need people to understand where you're coming from. So you can also go to Educate Yay or educatekanye.com, and you'll be redirected to Less People Forget right away. I think obviously there's almost a joke there. Kanye West is a gigantic figure, and he has 30 million, if not more, followers across all platforms. So I would hope that he's learned his lesson, but it's really less about him and more about the millions of followers that supported him. But kind of will never take the time to understand why he was actually wrong and what happened in the Holocaust, who Hitler was, all the tragedies that I always thought were so simple to understand and know were horrific moments in our history that people for some reason don't know. You easily can go to educatekanye.com and you will hopefully learn your lesson.
Well, I have looked over the site, and I think what you have done and what you have created is incredible. I really do hope to see that this goal of yours comes to fruition in terms of turning into a curriculum. And I would love to see that happen and support you through that if there's something that we can do here. So moving forward, you've written 3 books?
Technically, I published some books of poetry when I was younger, and then my memoir like 2-3 years ago. Yeah.
So let's talk about that book. Tell me, where did that come from, and how is that working with you today in terms of your journey?
So not everyone gets kind of offered to write a memoir at 24 years old. So it was a lot in the moment. It was a time when my life, that former political movement I just mentioned, was kind of very much in the spotlight. I was very much in the spotlight. People were writing really horrible things about me and to me. I kind of just wanted to take my story back into my own hands. I don't think I ever realized how bad of a place the internet was until that point in my life. But it really is a really dangerous place, not only because anyone out there can say whatever they want to you, but people can say whatever they want about you, and you can fight it all you want, but it's very hard to kind of take that narrative back. So not only did I, in that moment, realize I now have a pressure to do a million other things to kind of prove who I am, but I have a pressure to kind of put my own voice out there, because if I don't speak up, no one's ever going to speak up for me. And I have to at least push back slightly on this narrative that wasn't just, rude or mean, but it was just wrong. Like, a lot of things written were just wrong. I got an offer to write a memoir. I actually got really, really sick with pneumonia around the time that I signed the contract, and I laid in bed for about 5 weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, and I wrote my book. I had a few things written here and there because I'd always loved to write and write down, experiences I've been through, but I really didn't have a book, to be honest. So I wrote, I think, 70,000 words or so in those 4 weeks. And it was a blessing. The book, unfortunately, actually came out when COVID hit. So that was a hard kind of book tour and press to do. But it was really special nonetheless. The book also was published 40 years to the day that my dad left the Soviet Union. So that was pretty special as well. And the book obviously lasts forever. I look forward to writing hopefully many more. But yeah, it was really special to kind of get to say thank you to my parents for a lot of things, to explain my story in a lot of different ways to a lot of people who had gotten it wrong in a book that, like I said, I hope will live on forever. And it just feels nice knowing, going to sleep at night, knowing that I did my part. I put my story out there, and if people don't want to read it, that's on them. But I did push back. I did defend myself. I did protect my family, like I always said that I would. And I hope to do that a lot more in the future.
So, what made you decide to title the book Finding My Place? Because that's a very profound title.
Yeah, I remember writing it down when I first thought about writing a book. The first two that you mentioned were poetry book. I've written poetry over the years. Since that injury when I was like 15, 16, it's just what I do when I'm sad or scared or lost. So I think I was probably playing around with titles and with different thoughts. And Finding My Place kind of just came to be. I think it's because so many people maybe didn't know my age or just didn't understand who I was as a person. They kind of put it all out there, thought that they had put it together in like 3 negative news stories, when in reality, I'm just, at that point, I was just a 25-year-old trying to find my place in this world. So I thought that kind of put it out there nicely. It's also finding my place, making my parents' American dream come true. So I think I wanted people to understand not only am I finding my place, but I'm doing that with the pressure of wanting to make sure that my parents' dream of coming here and giving their kids that American dream actually comes true. And that's why I might make some mistakes along the way, but it's kind of because I have that pressure on my shoulders, and that's truly all I'm ever trying to do.
When you say the American dream, can you describe what you would consider your personal American dream for you?
Yeah, I've had a lot of these conversations with my dad. We have a lot of philosophical conversations. I think in general, I always reference this one quote. It's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. He had it on his desk. Uh, when I grew up, I always wanted to be just like my parents. I think that's been pretty clear in this interview, but I love to even like do my homework in my dad's office. So whenever he wasn't in there, I would sit in his office and I would do my homework and I would look at this quote that was just sitting there. And it's, do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. And the way my dad always described it to me, within the Soviet Union, you don't get to leave a trail. You have to go where the path leads. No one gets to dream. No one gets to do what they want to do. If you pursue what you want to do, you do it in the dark, in the basement, without people finding out. You don't really get that American dream. It's not just, the paycheck and the house and the field and, all those things. It's the ability to get to kind of form your own trail, which I don't think people understand is what makes America as special as it is. People around the world dream of a life where they can kind of make their own choices, even fail at those choices, but they get to make them. And that really only happens here. So I think making my parents' American dream come true was just obviously succeeding at everything I want to do. I'm always going to want to succeed, but just being able to stay true to myself and kind of do whatever it is that I want to do and ignore the path that people expect me to be on, because that's something for other people to do. We don't do that in this country. We don't have to do that in this country. That's why we're so lucky. So my parents gave up everything so I can do whatever I wanted to do and hopefully leave a trail and inspire others to do the exact same thing.
So moving forward, what is next for you in the near future? Do you have something that you are really pushing towards doing next?
There's a lot of things. I'm 28, which terrifies me in my brain. I love that you said I'm still young. That kind of calmed me down a little. But there's a lot of things I kind of want to do while I feel that I'm still young in the sense that I'm not worried right now, at least, about, being a mom and kind of taking that next step in my life, at which point, like my mother did, I'll have to give everything to my children proudly. So I think it's just about kind of deciding everything I want to do before that point. I just graduated with my master's in May. So I'd like to go back to school and get my GED. That's one thing I'd like to do. I also am working on a culinary degree on the side as well. I want to open a restaurant one day and I love food. When COVID started, I got like a culinary certification. It was like a 6-month course. So I'd like to do that as well. So those 2 degrees. that's that. I'd like to write another book in the near, I'd say, year or two. I have a few ideas that I'm messing around with, but haven't actually picked one. Um, I'm lending my voice a little bit more to TV and radio like I used to do, but kind of with my own spin nowadays. I think before I always thought that I had to do what people expected of me. And now I realize that's the opposite of what anyone wants. And the reason I'm invited on the shows is because I don't say what's expected. So I think lending my voice more, getting involved in ways that I can, continue volunteering. I've always been in the nonprofit space. So hopefully start a real nonprofit in the next few years. There's obviously a lot out there. I want to keep modeling until people officially tell me I'm too short, too fat, too old, whatever else they want to come up with. I want to keep going until they really, really stop me. Yeah, I just think living the best version of the life that God's given me. I've been super blessed with every opportunity under the sun. I don't believe in waiting for the door to open. I kind of believe in knocking it down yourself. So I'd say knocking down any door that I see remotely accessible to me, if I can kind of succeed in that space as well. It's always what I've wanted to do, is to succeed in any space that I can kind of get my way into.
So in terms of you opening a nonprofit, what type of nonprofit would you open?
So I've worked kind of along the way on different nonprofits, all the way from, charities that are helping children to political to everything in between. And I've always felt the best actually like on the front lines volunteering. There's nothing better than volunteering during the holidays, especially, but at food banks and, helper shelters, that's where I kind of thrive. I've never felt better than those moments. And that's, I think, when I realized like why I was put on this earth. So for me, it's always been about homelessness, fighting homelessness. I think it goes back to my parents. Not everyone knows what it's like to sleep in a warm, comfortable apartment with, nothing but love surrounding you. And it truly breaks, like shatters my heart. So people don't have that. So anything that I could do to kind of give someone that feeling and keep as many people off the street as possible would be number one. As crazy as it sounds, I know a lot of people have said that, but ending homelessness in my lifetime would be a pretty good goal.
You have a servitude heart, which is incredible. And then in terms of restaurant, you opening up a restaurant, what type of food? What would your focus be?
I want to do like an American, maybe American French kind of fusion restaurant, but I would like a hidden omakase counter in the back. I'm obsessed with sushi. I always have been. Taken a few courses under a sushi chef. So I'd say something in that space. That's currently the idea. I'm sure I'll have a million more, but I want something pretty fancy where I can just kind of enjoy the art of, deciding on a menu and, finding a chef and all the special things that come with that. I worked at an incredible restaurant in New York for a few years and fell in love with that space as well. So maybe even a few restaurants, who knows? But I think that's where I'll start.
Well, I'm going to tell you something that I tell all 6 of my kids. I have a bonus baby. The sky is not the limit. And, there is no such thing as a perfect opportunity. So you keep banging those walls down and keep, blasting through and breaking all those barriers, because you have a lot of young women who are watching you. But you also have women like myself, who are watching you lead by example. What you're doing is very brave. Do you think that you see yourself maybe in some point more into the political world in the future? Is that something on maybe your future horizon as well?
I think so. I've dabbled, as people know. I think I got very lucky to have dabbled in this space that is so, I don't want to say poisonous, but it's rough. With, again, parents that I trusted with my life to kind of make the right decisions and not, fall too deep into a world that I probably wasn't ready for. So I don't think I'll go back till I'm ready. But when I am, yeah, I just think we've reached the point where people want everyday Americans to get involved. They want people that just want to see a change and just want to see the world be a better place, get involved. And there's nothing I want more than that. So I'd say that the dabbling, kind of getting my foot wet in that space, will stay with me for a very long time. And I think people always say you kind of get sucked in once you've tried it, you can't get out. So yeah, I definitely see myself going back at some point.
Well, we wish you nothing but the very best, and congratulations to you. Embrace the bravery that you have, and just keep rising and shining, being the light that you are. And thank you for spending time with me today. It's been truly an honor. And I have one last question for you, and this wasn't planned. Is there anything that we don't know about you in the sense of the quirky side, the fun side of Elizabeth?
Fun side. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I shared a lot with the world. I don't know what's not out there. I'd say the side people don't really see is the one that really doesn't want to grow up, that wants to sit at home and cry watching The Little Mermaid, which I do anytime, like any chance that I get. Um, I love everything Disney and everything kind of little kid like, and I would love to stay 10 forever. I think people grow up way too fast nowadays, and I thank God every day my parents kind of kept me away from that. But yeah, I'd say the side people don't see is extremely awkward, extremely quirky. Probably hard to look at sometimes because my dance moves are the worst, but I love to do them anyway. So yeah, people miss a lot of that side of me, but I promise it's there, and I have to hide it quite a bit when I do anything professional like this. But that is me majority of the time.
Well, thank you so much for coming today, and thank you for sharing your journey with me. It was great speaking with you, and we wish you nothing but success and best wishes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.